Well, we know that Modi went there.
All I can say is that even in times of conflict, nation states remain in touch with each other. There is a process of engagement. That process of engagement must go. Now, if you ask me the next step, so should the foreign secretary go?
Yes.
I say yes. Let us go and discuss this. Let us give them all the evidence we have.
Yeah,
for this.
you all agree that the foreign secretary should meet.
Foreign secretary should meet, and
yeah.
I think the NSA should meet, whether we get to know of it or not, because again the point made just now that even in the worst of times during the Cold War, the KGB and the CIA never stopped talking.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I saw something very positive after Mr. Modi's Lahore visit, that come what may, the communication between the NSAs would not stop.
Yeah.
And let's hope that it never stops. And I think the Lahore process, whether you call it gamble, I thought you called it a master stroke.
No, I think it's, I thought it was a very, very brave, welcome move. But I did not, I clearly see the political risk that it comes with. And that's fine, that's woven into any big decision.
You have to take those political
But when that risk plays out in the way that it is playing out today at the Pathankot Air Base, will people back that initiative? Will you be able to take public opinion along? And I just want to get into politicians briefly before I go back to Marshal Fali Major. Abhishek Singhvi, you began with the premise that if it is rogue elements, we won't question the Modi-Pakistan policy. But almost every strategic expert on this panel today says, if it is the Jaish-e-Mohammed, that is not a rogue element. That is the imprint of the Pakistan Army and the ISI. Now what? Now will you still back Mr. Modi's Pakistan initiative?
No, I think we are, that's why I clarified. I said we are perhaps getting lost in semantics. What I meant by rogue element was just that not the direct involvement of the government as in government or the Nawaz Sharif angle. That's all that I meant. I don't think anybody in India doubts that Jaish-e-Mohammed and other organizations like that are fully supported, equipped, trained and sent out by people who are elements in the army and the ISI. So that's the purpose of my clarification. Secondly, certainly the more you find out, and we have our own sources to find that out, obviously it's early days within 72 hours or 48 hours to say it, the more you find it out, of course it must lead to a calibration every second of Mr. Modi's policy. But he must confront them, he must insult them, he must tell them upfront and let them, if it is there very clearly, he must let the world know. The policy of international opprobrium and embarrassment is a very powerful weapon in international diplomacy.
You're agreeing, Patrick? I disagree.
I don't think a breakfast or a lunch with a Prime Minister of Pakistan should stop that, or that Mr. Modi should hesitate in doing that.
I entirely agree. Let me put it this way. These fellows from the BBC and CNN, great freedom of the press walas, are describing
as gunmen. These terrorists as gunmen.
Were the people who killed in Paris gunmen?
No, that's absolutely
so what I'm saying is, this is a heaven-sent opportunity to us to expose this Western duplicity and tell the world what really happened.
But I do want to ask Sambit Patra a couple of questions on the politics that is already beginning to play out, even while the encounter is still not declared closed. Sambit, one, I must ask you, why did the Home Minister 24 hours ago on Twitter say, I salute our forces on a successful operation? Should he have been making these comments? Have any of you been briefed? Has the government adopted a cohesive one-point response system? Then you all blame the media. The media will report whatever all of you say. One. And two, I want you to respond to a tweet by Omar Abdullah, if we can bring this up, saying business as usual is all very well, but a speech about yoga by the Prime Minister while an encounter rages on is totally out of sync. And the Prime Minister talking about yoga is, as you know, being criticized by the opposition. So Sambit, come in on both these points.
Number one point, as far as the tweet of Mr. Rajnath Singh, the Home Minister, is concerned, as you yourself pointed out, he just tweeted about the success of the combing operations yesterday. He did not say that the operation was over. And secondly, boosting the morale of the force, I believe there is no politics in that. I see nothing wrong in it. If he says that we salute our Jawans, so whatever they did, that's something called as boosting the morale of our Jawans, and we should all be doing it. Whether the combing down operation is over or not over.
mean, usually you do not, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually, General Hasnain, you do not say an operation is successful or failed till it's over. Am I wrong? I mean, I've seen many encounters.
You are absolutely right, Barkha, but I think there's a context to it which has to be understood.
Yeah.
This Pathankot air base was the objective, I think, based on the idea which the terrorists had of what was achieved by the TTP in the Peshawar air base, for example, right?
Yeah.
Destruction of aircraft, helicopters, etc.
Yeah.
Now, I think yesterday what the Home Minister meant in his tweet or his statement or anything
that the damage had been contained.
Was a comparison. That look here, we have been able to prevent entry into the main hangars, into the areas where the main assets were involved. You see, having a couple of casualties, etc., I know it's very insensitive on my part to say it, but it doesn't create that kind of a turbulence. But if you had scenes of helicopters burning, MiG-29s burning, it would have been a complete catastrophe as far as the media is concerned.
Yeah.
And therefore, the Home Minister,
so that the technical assets were ring-fenced is what you're saying he's calling successful. But I do believe that comment could have been avoided in the public domain, because there has been a lot of confusion in the communication approach, and we'll discuss that in a moment. I just want to get in Air Marshal Major to just talk about something. We saw attack choppers being deployed. This, for those of us who've reported on encounters, is atypical. Later it was officially confirmed, I am not speculating, it was officially confirmed that in fact at one point rockets were used to try and push the terrorists into one part of the airbase. How unusual would it be for these attack choppers to be deployed, and could you tell us what that means about the enormity of what we're actually seeing unfold at Pathankot?
Barkha, I'm not very sure if the RPs or rockets were actually fired by the Mi-35 gunships. They certainly were in the air, but in case
yes,
either rockets or front guns were fired at a particular target, it must have basically been to get them out of that area.
Yeah, that's what I said. To move them into one area.
It is not... absolutely.
Yes.
But I'm not very sure if this actually happened.
Okay.
But having assets such as the Mi-35s or any other gunship or a helicopter which is capable of locating and hitting a particular target, once of course, only after it's ensured that it is a terrorist, because that guy is also in fatigues. I don't see anything wrong with it, if at all it has happened.
No, not at all wrong. I was just saying that does it make it unusual? Now I want to come over some of the unanswered questions that have
arisen. I don't think it would make it unusual, because that asset is readily available with you.
Fair enough, fair enough. Ambassador Parthasarathy, do you believe, to pick up point one, do you believe, as Brigadier Kanwal said, that the confusion over casualties pointed to an unclear communication policy, which we should have learned, both media and government, from 26/11?
I would say that I had expected, after the fiasco during the 26/11 attack, we would have a more coherent communications policy than we have today.
What could the government have done?
No, listen, this thing is quite clear, that you have to have contingency planning for such events.
Yes.
And it should be very clear in such events that, for example, I would, whatever it is, this may have been in an airbase, but generally the GOC of the area would be the coordinating officer.
Yeah.
And he would have his own spokesman who reports only to him.
Yeah.
You know, in communications in a terrorist situation, there's one point, and that one point is the man on the spot.
Yeah.
And as I said, in this case, you have not just an army division, you have a full army corps there. The corps headquarters is based in Pathankot.
Is going to come up there as well.
So I think, I'm sure that in future, this should be made very, very clear that the senior most officer there, unless you're sending a team from Delhi, which you will not, with his duly designated spokesman gives information. And the other thing I would suggest is that during a situation, it should be solely the discretion of the commanding officer there what information to give when.
So this one point confusion.
You mentioned
yeah,
too many people communicating, too
Isn't
many
that
people
true?
saying too many things.
All the ministers were giving some initial responses.
Quite right. Far too many people speaking
yeah,
for no rhyme or reason. But more than that is that, for once, I'm glad you started by saying that there was intelligence, because normally we are in the first in the firing line, that this is not an intelligence failure.
But you know,
there was intelligence.
But you know, I was going to take that, no, because while we're on intelligence, a question could be asked, and I want all of you to weigh in on this, that despite that advanced intelligence, 7 fatalities, 20 injuries, and operation still ongoing. This is a question you know is going to come up.
So that's exactly what I was coming to, that not only did you have advanced intelligence, there is an incident, and a serious incident, which takes place 24 hours before the airbase is entered or attacked or whatever, and it is a senior officer of the Punjab police involved, and he says that, he had been waylaid by 4 terrorists, and for 24 hours, and then they take off with his mobile phone, which leads you to the gates of the Pathankot air base, and still nothing happens. And then the bigger question, or the linked question, is how do these people with so many weapons, how do they get in? This happened.
No, but this is my question.
No, this happened in the Dinanagar attack. The same route was followed. So, I hope I'm wrong, but then there was a rumor that there may be some,
insider
local support. I hope that is wrong.
So are you suspecting the same here? Are you saying that given the intelligence...
That there are already rumors.
Yeah,
that... The Tribune carried a story that, some locals may be involved today. Now my point is, I hope that is wrong, but if that is wrong, then obviously this route is very easy to come through. You could obviously pay your way through, because this is the route that is used by smugglers.
Yes, and there could be drug linkages and all the rest of it. But you raised a very important point, that if there was intel, General Hasnain, then how did they get in with the weapons? How did they even get past the first tier? Why was that first tier? This is I don't want you to give away anything operational, but why would the first tier be the DSC and not the commandos who'd already been positioned there a day in advance? How could they get past the first tier? This is a bit something
to the years 2000, 2001. I think most people have forgotten that the first time an airbase was ever struck was the Avantipur airbase.
I remember that.
It was struck, and the Garuds actually eliminated all the terrorists at the gate.
Yes.
Right? Now, who were the people actually manning the gates at that time? It was the DSC again. It's not as if the DSC is a dead-out force. The DSC is still a trained force. There are ex-servicemen who've got a tremendous amount of experience there, and they have their training in Cananore. But having said that, let me also put in this. Your greatest intelligence was not what Mr. Dulat has just spoken. Your greatest intelligence was a similar act had taken place on 26th of July this year.
Gurdaspur.
On the 27th morning, I wrote on this saying, the future operations are all going to be North Punjab based. There's a reason for it. South Punjab, you can come in.
But Mr. Dulat is still raising how they got in with weapons despite this intelligence.
This is exactly what I said.
You asked the question.
That is the failure. But that's a failure.
No, so which part is the failure? What part is the failure?
The failure starts essentially from the fact that we could not prevent their entry. We know that this is the area through which it has happened before.
So you're saying the very infiltration is where the breach is. I am
always the first person to say that 100% counter-infiltration is not possible.
Okay, I want to view from Pakistan. Wajad Khan, senior journalist, is with us. Brigadier Kaval, you want to add to that quickly?
You asked the question, Barkha.
Yes.
How did they cross the first tier?
Yes.
They crossed the first tier because there is no first tier. There are some platoons of the DSC guarding the base. It's a 26 to 30 square kilometers large base. There are possibly 3 to 4 platoons, maybe 5. They are grossly inadequate for the task. They are retired people, armed perhaps with SLRs or maybe even the INSAS rifle. They are capable of manning gates. They are capable of manning posts.
So that's why I asked that if NSG was sent in a day earlier.
Something.
I think, is it the Air Marshal who's trying to add something? I'm not actually sure. Air Marshal, is it you? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Barkha, we must understand one thing, that the Garud commandos of the Indian Air Force are very few, and they were basically raised for certain specific Air Force tasks and not for airfield protection because the numbers were small.
Yes.
It was only later that for protection of the airfield, as the numbers increased, they got involved. What is required today is that the DSC, while they put up a great fight in this particular encounter, but their age and their continuity training, unlike that of an infantry battalion or any other army unit, is not as good.
But the question I'm asking is why the NSG was not deployed.
This is a lesson.
Sir, the question I'm asking is the
NSG was not at the base.
No, sir. As far as I know, sir, as far as I know, the advance intelligence meant that commandos were placed there on the eve of this unfolding.
Barkha, the NSG never goes in to do a protective job.
I see. Okay.
They don't go and form a ring around.
Yeah.
They come in to strike. The task of the ring is that of all other persons, starting from the DSC. I would say perhaps the response should have been that a company of the infantry should have been deployed there, if it was required. If the threat perception was there, a company of the infantry should have been deployed.
Now that you've raised the question, why was the NSG involved at all?
Why was the NSG
involved at all?
No, why not?
It is a counter-terrorism force.
But this is a terror attack.
No, this is a terror attack. This is not an urban terrain.
This was a military base.
Yes.
The armed forces should have handled the contingency by themselves.
At Nahan, you have got special forces units there. From Nahan is closer than Delhi. It should have been flown in immediately, and I can assure you all command and control problems would have been resolved. The army would have been totally in charge.
I entirely agree.
And like General Hasnain said,
I entirely agree. Dealing with such a situation, you need
there is one lesson in this.
Unity of command.
Unity of command.
Unity of command is crucial. And if you've got, look, in the border areas, there's no shortage of special forces trained for this sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay, let me just get a perspective from Pakistan, then I want to get the politicians back. Emashto, give me half a second. Wajahat Khan, a senior journalist, is with us. He's from Karachi. Wajahat, how is Pakistan looking at this? In India, there's a widespread sort of debate over whether this is payback for the risk that the Prime Minister Modi took by meeting your Prime Minister in Lahore. I know you were travelling with Prime Minister Sharif in Baluchistan just a day or so ago. To Indians, this would reinforce, as Ambassador Parthasarathy has just said, that the Pakistan Army and the ISI are not on board with any meaningful India initiative.
Hi Barkha, good to be on. Hell of a debate you got brewing over there. I would say that the skepticism, the way the attack has unfolded and the way there's a lot of loose ends around here. Usually there's a lot of conspiracists ready to pounce at this being a homegrown Indian drama.
Surely you can't be serious. Surely you can't be serious. Surely you can't be serious.
No, of course not.
Yes,
of course it's a real attack.
Let's not trivialize what's happening. Our soldiers are still dying there. An encounter is still on. We cannot possibly allow these kind of, sort of airheaded conspiracy theories.
And deliberately,
so let's not do that. Let's not do that right now. Let's not do that right now.
And deliberately, I call that, there's a lot of conspiracy theory-minded folks here, a lot of nutters out here. But let me tell you, at the larger level, strategically, I think there's a lot of parity. From what I understand, there's a lot of parity at the highest levels of civilian and military power. There's a lot of same-pagedness. The Prime Minister, the top army command, etc., are on the same page about this. I also, besides traveling with the Prime Minister, also managed to hang out with the National Security Advisor, who you know is a recently retired 3-star general, a very important one. And on background, I can't give you direct quotes here, but let me give you a broad idea about how his meeting went down with Ajit Doval. I heard from sources, very, very becoming sources, that was a very important meeting. That was the real breakthrough. In fact, that is what set the stage for everything which has happened since. So even down, and considering that Jaffa represents both the civil and military establishments, he's been placed there for a very particular role, which is to make sure both sides converge.
So what are you saying? What are you saying? Are you saying that if this is the Jaish, it's not in control of the Pakistan military, because nobody believes that here? Why is a Masood Azhar never been prosecuted for IC 814 is the question that Indians would ask. Why does he roam free with impunity?
Listen, all I'm saying is right now, it's beyond the Jaish-e-Mohammed. It sounds like the Jaish-e-Star Wars. Yeah, these guys are, who were these guys? How did they manage to get in? You're the guys having the debate right now. I need a lot of clarity. I would prefer it if you give me some clarity.
Ambassador Parthasarthi, I'll allow you to come in there because the thing is, and you know, that's why I got a journalist today instead of a politician. Wajad, half a second.
I'll agree with one thing with what